The John Mahama administration restored Ghana's Republic Day as a holiday. In addition to that, Republic Day, the 1st of July, has now been christened as a national day of prayer and thanksgiving. At the maiden edition, calls were made for reflection, reset, and renewal for the Ghanaian people. But what could prayers achieve for the Ghanaian people, for us now, that it didn't in the last decades, 6 decades or so? That's one of many questions we explore in this edition of Hot Issues. Cardinal Capt. Turkson's recent sermon at the National Day of Prayer called for a moral reset, urging Ghanaians and leaders alike to reject greed, embrace virtue, and take collective responsibility for national renewal. Now, his message resonated, but it comes at a time when the region where Ghana finds itself faces deeper storms. Remember the constitutional crisis in Togo and the democratic coups in countries like Burkina Faso. I am Kemini Amano, and in this edition, I sit with the Papa Bile. Twice he has been in the running for Pope. In both cases, he lost. That's why we'll find out from him as well. If he is disappointed, he wasn't elected. My next guest is His Eminence, Cardinal Capt. Turkson. Your Grace, you're welcome to Hot Issues.
I brought some cold water too, so...
You brought some cold water? We like the idea of that. You recently spoke at the National Day of Prayer and Thanksgiving. Why did you accept the invitation to come to this event?
Why? Who would have the courage or even the whatever? I mean, if a president of a country invites you for an event that the country is putting up, you probably find a reason to say, no, you can't come. I'm trying to look for a good adjective to use, but it's just be improper. Improper. A president of a country invites and it's not that one could not have found a reason or whatever. The appointments are so very many, and there are a lot of things that one could be doing, but he's the president of Ghana. So it was just an act of, if you want, filial duty to be able to do this.
During your sermon there, you made mention that, the theme for the Thanksgiving service should not only be seen in words, but also in action. And then you called for a moral reset. What does a moral reset look like for this country?
Moral reset was first and foremost conceived by those who planned the event. And it's not just moral reset. Moral reset is the second part of it. It calls for a reflection. Okay, from the reflection then, so in the reflection you identify what is good, what is bad. And the reset is probably, having a way of dealing with, what is bad, and then promoting what is good. To be able to attain, the objectives or the goals that you have or one has. So that is just what the proper thing was, just a proper thing. So, I mean, originally, I had thought that was going to be a longer thing. So yesterday was a quick 15 minutes type of thing to do. This was a topic that could be a topic for a whole 1 hour lecture or 1 hour reflection. But the event yesterday wasn't the time to do 1 hour. To have held everybody seated there for 1 hour would have been cruel on my part. So that was the brief type of thing. Reflection. You try to attain a proper vision of the situation. See what its original intentions could have been, what is held you back from attaining the objectives or the set goals, and then from that, recognizing what kept you from realizing the objectives or set goals, you try to fashion new trajectories to do all of that. So the reset is that. I mean, if you're talking about this in Ghana in a long whatever type of lecture, could be even a series of lectures. For me, this was in the context of a Thanksgiving service, a religious service. And what was very normal for me to do was to root all of that in scriptures. Okay, the source of every conversation, every talk about religion or the Bible. And so, I identified this passage in the prophet Jeremiah, chapter 6, which says, Israel, look, you stand at the crossroad. Okay, with paths before you. You know the ancient paths. Choose that, and things will be well for you and all of that. And for me, formulating a topic like reflection, reset, and renew just brought this passage back to me. And I thought that was the thing that we could also use as a biblical passage to guide the reflections of yesterday. So in Ghana, we also kind of stand at a crossroad. And, and our decision, however, should be inspired by what went before, what we conceive in the future, and the present experience and all. And to do that, I say, look, we're not the first to be doing this. Take from scriptures itself, this happened a lot in God, in the life of God's people in scriptures. I cited a quick 3 instances or examples over there. When, after the death of Moses, Joshua led God's people to the promised land. It was a new phase. And Joshua reminds them, brought them all together and said, Israel, you got to make a choice. The God who brought you whatever type, so you make a choice. As for me and my family, we know what we want to do. And then people say, no, we just stick with God and all of that. That was their reset. Okay, after everything that had happened through the desert, the waywardness that has caused a lot to die in the desert and all of that, they make this commitment to serve the Lord now. Another passage comes in the life of people on the promised land during the time of the kings, Josiah. Also comes, so it's something therefore, and all of them do their reset or commitment, but with reference to the past. They try to step into the past, discover the values, okay, that guided them in the past, and try to awaken those and bring them to guide them into the future. So at this point, I say, Ghana, how to do the same.
Which will then bring the question of what then are our ancient paths as the Ghanaian people?
So there was a time we got independent, if even it's not too far away. There was a time we got independent, 1957. So that's the beginning of this special journey that we're making. And right after independence came the Republic. So if we're thinking about resetting everything, it's not resetting based on vacuum. It's reset based on realities of the past, what we've gone through before. So, okay, I didn't get a chance to, you could say a whole lot of things about this yesterday, and it wasn't the time, there was whatever. But, so resetting and going back into the past. Incidentally, if I was, again, for your purpose of this interview, let me kind of briefly say that for Ghana, resetting and going back into the past, and this was an event organized by a government, we remember the first government. At independence, I was 9. I wasn't too old, but old enough to remember and recognize certain things. I was a 9-year-old child growing up in a mining town. Mining town operated by the British. So it was a concern of the people who were getting independent from. So the delegates who were sent by Britain came to this mining town because it was a concern of the English. Okay, so I got a chance to see Prince Philip and all of these young whatever people over in there, God save the Queen and whatever. But so we got independent. And the first president of Ghana, I think Kwame Nkrumah, and there was a struggle out of which came up. There were 2 parties, the Demos and the CPPs, all of those. One going for indirect rule, one going for outright independence and free whatever. So all of this you could consider.
Right.
Why did people choose indirect rule? Why did people want to do straight independence? We take it and do it our own. So Kwame Nkrumah's option, having won the day, this was a man, therefore, who was set to building a nation, putting Ghana as a nation on the map of the world. So the concern was to develop a Ghana. this is not the concern of subsequent governments. So subsequent governments came, and their thing was not to put Ghana on the map because Ghana was already on the map. That's what, one of the pastors was, Duncan Williams referred to yesterday. At independence, we were on the level of India. Then what happened? We were on the level of Singapore. Then what happened? So the initial inspiration did not carry through. Where did we lose it? Okay, and so somebody who tried to put Ghana on the map, and not only Ghana on the map, Ghana in the midst of what it meant to identify a black star. All of those type of things, and somebody like the president knows it from his father. Mohammed's father was involved in this fight for independence. So to him, telling him about independence, not a school, taking him to school.
He'll be preaching to the choir.
He was, something he knew. And so this is an idea that we need to take care. At independence, there was this thing. Ghana, a nation, was to be formed, to be put on the map, to whatever. So the idea was more about building Ghana.
And we need that back. We need to return to that idea.
I mean, so subsequently, the thing had been getting to power, but let me use a cruel expression. I don't want using this expression to accuse anybody. But the subsequent, most of the subsequent, let me use most, qualify it again, most of the subsequent thing had been assuming that Ghana exists. And so sometimes, inadvertently, it's been access to coffers. It's been access to power. It's not more the thing about the exigency is not building Ghana, but assuming that Ghana exists, it's got whatever. So a placement, you acquire a position that gives you access to this, access to that, access to that. So that's probably where we lost the gap, or where we created a gap between us and India and between us and Singapore and whatever. The task of building at a certain point stalled. And we got too preoccupied with what it is now and what we can gain from what it is now. So if we're talking about reset, so all of this history thing is the thing of the past. But the past is necessary to propel the reset into the future. And so if we're talking about reset, we started with them. Why did we lag behind? If we're resetting, it's like finding the propulsive power to take things us forward. And that, I think, was the thing out there. And so renew. We need then, therefore, to step out of this mental framework of assuming that this is there and this is there and ours is to get what we can get from it. That doesn't help the concept of a common good. And so that's why I talked about the need to return to virtuous living and virtuous conduct. We need to develop those type of things which make us more altruistic, more national, whatever. So you can go in and become another lecturer. The sermon is over, so I'm not talking a sermon again.
But if there was one thing you could point to, what would you say is the one thing that yesterday's event achieved that could have ripple effect on how we behave?
Certainly. A few things one can talk about. I mean, this I've said before, so I was a bishop here in Ghana before I went wherever I am in exile or whatever I am in, in the diaspora. Yesterday's event, over above, the president's vision, what he achieved was to bring the different religious, whatever groups behind a certain idea. I mean, I had been here in Ghana for bishop, whatever type of thing. Yesterday's gathering of, pastors Duncan Williams, Ajina Sari, whatever, Heward, Doug Mills, and all of the different heads, Anglican and Pentecostal and all. This whole cloud, bringing them all together behind an idea, was in itself an achievement. Then, beside that was the thing with the Muslims. Okay, yeah, so yesterday we went to the mosque and the forecourt, whatever type of thing. So, if every year the different heads of religion, the religious groups are going to be able to come together like this to celebrate the sense of a nation and a sense of whatever type, it would already be a big achievement. Second thing was that the need to start talking to people about resetting. If you talk about reset, it just means that there's something that's not been exactly right. So in the title of the event yesterday was Thanksgiving. But in my head, as somebody who has studied some of these languages before, the Hebrew word for Thanksgiving is Todah. And Todah does not simply mean Thanksgiving, but also a sense of respect, a sense of introspection, and a sense of recognition. So it just means that you take stock of your whatever type to be able to give thanks. And so when you talk about reset in the context of Thanksgiving, it means you want to kind of, it's almost like a long jump, right? You come to a position, you need to spring. But before you come to this position to spring, you retreat into the past. Okay, these are the dynamics of long jump. You retreat into the past. What past? That's what we just talked about. Yep. Okay, the past of Ghana's independence, whatever. And then you come to this point where you have to jump. That's your reset point. And that is propelled by a new vision. What do you want Ghana to be? How do you want to achieve it? And all of that. So that's a new vision that has to be set. Government, the present government, embraces this and, kind of braces itself to be able to create this vision. But there's something that I mentioned during the prayer over the president, right, but which I could also have mentioned in the course of the sermon. The president does not do this alone. This reset, he can talk about, and he has the role to formulate it for the nation. Okay, but the realization and achievement cannot be the task of only the president. It has to be the task of the president, the ministers, his cabinet and all of these. And then the rest of us, ministers, pastors, whatever, all of us behind, okay? And in so doing, first and foremost, with him and his ministers and cabinet and all, there's a big thing to recall, which I briefly mentioned when we were praying over him. And again, from the Bible, since that was a Christian thing, we can learn a very beautiful lesson. In the book of Exodus, at one point, Moses alone leading the people became burdensome. He cried to God, and God told him, choose 70 elders, okay, whom you are sure can do the job. Bring them, okay, and I'll commission them or put something in your spirit, whatever. Now, when Moses chose those 70 people and bring, we compare them to the ministers, whom the president has put together to help him do this. When Moses brought them, and God came to put the Spirit on them, God did not give these 70 people an original or completely new spirit. The book of Exodus tells us that when these 70 gathered, God came and took his spirit, which was already in Moses, and put some of that spirit on these 70. That means a lot to me. It just means that these 70 are not exercising or having a brand new spirit. It is the spirit already domesticated in Moses. In other words, the spirit that was already in Moses is what they share. And sharing this type of spirit, you're bound to work in communion, in union, in unity, in complete whatever. You cannot therefore have ministers or whatever who are on a part which is dissonant with the part of the president. It must be a display of the same spirit which was on Moses, which is given to them. And this means that communion, solidarity, this is very crucial for a successful leadership between the president and his ministers. And when you go beyond that, then the rest of us, virtuous living. If we say leadership belongs to God, it requires virtuous people for God to lead them in leadership.
So, I mean, the last time we spoke, we identified some of the problems of this nation. We have done the same today as well. Do you get the impression that we are now in the right direction?
We have not. Okay, so yesterday we celebrated a reset. If I were here, if I was part of government, I'd probably be able to identify signs of this reset. Okay, and whatever type of thing. So, for me, from this now, I'll be modest and probably say that I have talked about this. And the reset probably is something, I mean, if the formulation of this topic came from the president's own office and all of that, then I would imagine that they have recognized a need for reset. Mm-hmm. Then in what area? In what areas are we feeling this need for reset? Mm-hmm. If you leave it to me, and it's like making, if I modestly, in all modesty and humility, I can make any suggestions, I'll talk about our sense of the common good. Okay? Our sense of common good is very crucial. Let's see. So very, very crucial simply means that Ghana does not belong to one or few. Ghana is for all of us. And the development of its resources must be what must satisfy everybody. If yesterday's event talked about inclusive prosperity, I'll probably, prosperity makes people think about money. I'll probably say that it's not simply money, but inclusive well-being. Mm-hmm. Every Ghanaian wants to feel good. And well-being simply means he knows he has food to eat, he has water to drink, he has healthcare, education, whatever. So if all of these are available, it's inclusive. If somebody tells me that all of this require money, we have the wealth of the country. So we need to administer the wealth of the country in such a way that it promotes the common good. Mm-hmm. But this, again, is what, we recognize. When we had mines, the government had a chance to impose a percentage tax. Mm-hmm. Although right now, from what I know, I think what the government gets from the mines could be higher. Okay? Mm-hmm. Whatever. But at least there was something that official was done. Now that is Calamse, everybody exploits and gets its own thing. Who knows how they are sold? What kind of market manages the products of Calamse? So what kind of national income, okay, does a nation derive from all of this disparate...
But that's the new government give you hope that we could be headed for the right place in this country?
I have said one or two things which suggest that this is something to look at.
Right.
Okay, this is something to look at and be reviewed, whatever. So the details of how they started looking at it, I don't have and I don't know now. Mm-hmm. But from what I heard about this commitment to look at this issue and deal with it. And I have a reason, when somebody says they want to look at it, because from our own intervention from our office in the Vatican, we've had dealt with situations like that in Brazil. Mm-hmm. Because Brazil is like Ghana with all of this, whatever type of thing. And an attempt about looking at it simply had tried to organize these free independent exploiters into a group that can then be allied to a national purpose and national vision.
Uh-huh. I see. Your Eminence, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, I'd ask you, you live in the diaspora in the Vatican.
Official diaspora.
And there are those who would say that, listen, you've left Ghana, you may be even more comfortable there, but you also care about this country so passionately.
But why am I here? I come to Ghana 3 times in a year.
Let's look at that when we come back. Don't go away. Thank you so much again for agreeing to sit with us, Your Eminence. Like I was saying before we went on the break, we could say that you could have a comfortable life outside of this country. You also look back passionately at activities in this country, and you speak on some of the ills of our society today.
And some of the blessings also of the society, the ills and the blessings. Mm-hmm. No, it is this. I'm a Ghanaian. Mm-hmm. There's no point in I'm a Ghanaian and happy, if you want, proud to be a Ghanaian. I've mentioned this before in the past. When I was leaving Ghana, it was at the time of Akufo-Addo. Mm-hmm. Not Akufo-Addo, Kufuor. So, Kufuor, when I went to say goodbye to him, because I had been assigned to a job in the Vatican. So, he conferred on me the thing about a diplomat. So I never meant to carry a diplomatic number plate on the car and all of that. But diplomat, in what sense? I'm not a minister. I'm not somebody on the ambassadorial position or anything. But it just meant that there was a way that I could talk about this country, witness to this country, give a proof of the country's own, sense of integrity, equity, values, pursuit, and all of that. So there was a lot of things that I could do or say, which will reflect. I mean, it's like if somebody sees Kofi Annan, he doesn't only see Kofi Annan, he sees where Kofi Annan came from. So something similar, I recognize, had to be done. So if I come back, I think what I witnessed to and talk about Ghana far exceeds my coming back and doing a presence over here. Okay, Ghana accompanies me when I go to Davos, when I go to UN General Assemblies, when I go to whatever missions to South Sudan, Iran, So so if it's a question of feeling or being Ghanaian, I think it's more where I go being a Ghanaian than coming. If I come back to Ghana, when I come back to Ghana, fine. It's only this which on account of the occasion makes it, whatever. But otherwise, when I come for Easter, I go to some village that I go to help celebrate Easter or Christmas. It's some village, there's no big thing. There's no meeting or protocol at the airport, come in a bouquet of flowers, whatever as the last time. So I do come to Ghana, and being in Rome, I also know guys who are appointed to Rome, and being in Rome, it becomes their position, probably do not maintain contact with their home country much. But in my case, no, I don't know, if you, later if you're talking for the Kweku, there's some detail, whatever. I just give you one example. It's not, in full modesty, right? It's not to extol myself over anything. When in 1992, October, I was still finishing my thesis, my work, doctoral thesis in Rome. It was, I was told I was going to have been, named the Bishop of Cape Coast and whatever. In those years, it was possible to be ordained by the Pope in Rome. And I could have done that in January 1993. Actually, another colleague who was named the bishop decided to come to Rome to be ordained. In Rome, I decided to be ordained a bishop in Ghana. It's a question of thinking and value system or whatever one places that thing. For me, it was significant to be ordained in the midst of the people you meant to serve. So it's like the people come together to make you this because they are supposed to be beneficiaries of your mission and your ministry. And that I thought was significant and had to be brought up. Okay, the idea behind this is almost like something that one old saint, St. Augustine, had said. He tells his faithful who pray for him for his job, for his ministry and everything to be successful. It's almost like Muhammad could say the same thing to us. When you all Ghanaians pray for me, now I'm talking like Muhammad, right? If you pray for my government to succeed, you pray for yourselves. Because the success of my work is your well-being. So if you pray for me to be successful in my work, you pray for your own well-being. So it's the same thing about a bishop. If I'm a bishop of a flock, and the flock say, we're praying for me so that your ministry is successful, you're praying for yourselves. The success of my ministry is your well-being. So that's, I thought that dynamic had to be played out.
I see. But do you ever worry that the fact that you speak on the blessings and ills of our society could be seen or could make people see you as a political figure as well?
As a political figure?
Yeah, that you may be political as well.
Which human being is not a political figure? Okay, so we ourselves in our talk, especially from my office, we make a distinction between party politics, okay, and non-party politics. Because we are political figures. We express views and opinions which involve our presence in society. Yesterday at this sermon, I made a small quote that for a believer in the Bible, your belief in God entails your vision. You need to create a vision of the world and then identify your own place within that vision. Okay? All of us living in society, especially if we're believers, from our belief in the gospel and the Bible and everything, this needs to help us create a vision of the world. How do we see the world? We need to have that vision. We just don't live as somebody. We just get up, in the morning, eat whatever time, go out without any vision. So that our belief in God entails our vision of the world, and then the identification of our place within that vision. It's got to be something we got to do to make this vision work. So this is, and all of us in Ghana must have this. We need to wake up every day with a vision. I am a churchgoer, I'm whatever. So how do I see the world?
Right, so you don't speak on these issues because you are, or you're engaged in partisan politics?
No, not because I'm a politician, because, what is it? Basic thing is that human beings have two attributes which are very basic. They are personal beings, which means they have dignities to be respected and to be promoted. And they are relational beings. We develop ourselves in relationship. First with our parents, or if we are believers, first with God, then with our parents, with our siblings, whatever. So our being develops in relationship. So we are personal beings and relational beings. As such, I mean, if you recognize that your life is developed in relationship with another, the impact they make on you, the impact you make on them and all of that, then you can't say you are not political. You are a member of a polis. Polis is the Greek word for a city. It is from that the word political comes from. Right. So we're a member of a city, we're a member of a human beings living together. And we don't live together without impacting one another. Okay, and so what happens? We impact one another by way of seeking the development of our dignities and our freedom and everything. And with passage of time, we've developed this of creating structures which promote our desire and our quest for dignities and all, and these are the political parties. So political parties, as we said before, do not exist in their own right. They exist to carry out a mandate which derives from us who elect and commission them. And what they promote is not what they have. It's what I have and I entrust into their hands. My dignity becomes your job. That's why you paid. That's why I vote for you, to promote my dignity and my whatever personal freedom. And so we are essentially political being without even becoming, a party or whatever type of things. It's
very well. I mean, since this government came into office, they have tried to go after previous government appointees over some corruption and financial misconduct cases. What do you make of the level of accusations that we are seeing, the level of corruption that allegedly took place in the previous administration?
I do not. So here I confess my ignorance that, so rightly so, not being here, I do not have a privilege of reading about this every day, unless sometimes I go online, WhatsApp, whatever type of thing. But I get on WhatsApp, whatever type of thing, always with a caution, because I also know what happens on WhatsApp. Having just gone through the conclave, I know what people said, okay, and whatever. So I get to the media, but I get to the media with always a pinch of salt. Okay, it's not. I'm not just gullible to anything, whatever type of. So it will certainly make a difference if I'm here and I'm reading this in the dailies and all of that. Absolutely. And that and that. Absolutely. But what you're saying, if you want to know, I had expected this of this government which has gone out and which is now calling opposition. We had expected this also of when they took over of the other government. Same things were said, and some expected that they would call them to order, whatever type of. So now for what is done, it is. I mean, for anybody to instill or promote a culture of responsibility is basic for me. It's everybody to feel that you're responsible for your office. You were elected, you were entrusted with an office, the office had a significance and points of reference. You promote the well-being of those who trusted in you and repose this in your hand. At the end of the day, what happened? What did you do? So for me, it's okay asking this question about responsibility, whatever type of thing. Just that I separate that or distinguish that from persecution. Holding somebody responsible is not the same as persecuting anybody. Yeah. Okay, and that sense of responsibility, I think, is basic.
I see. Let's look at the sub-region. We've seen the situation in Togo in the last few days. We've also seen how the world appears to turn on Burkina Faso. But let's start off with the situation in Togo.
I grew up in the western region, in Suta, close to Takwa. And in Takwa, there was a family. The Olympio family lived in Takwa. I knew that family because one of their boys wanted to go become a priest and was in the seminary with me and all of that. And I knew the Olympio family is a family from Togo. And that's a family that was probably living in Takwa because was chased into exile. And subsequently, they tried also to go around for politics and whatever. So a little bit of that I knew. So, I mean, in this sense, a family wanting to put aside or put away of opposition and then establish a yes, this now. This is also, if you want, the bane of politics in Somalia. Then in that sense, something similar is happening in Museveni in Uganda. Yep. Okay, and now to talk about in Rwanda, they make it politically whatever. Cameroon, we live with something similar. So this is the thing now. Why that is the case, I cannot venture an explanation. Is it what? Fear of a shadow? Fear of when not being in power, you'll be persecuted. In which case, one can even, in that case, even go outside Africa. You look at Al Jazeera and Sisi, and they're talking about, for example, Netanyahu doing whatever also because when he's out of power, he's afraid. So this is a phenomenon that appears to be a political type of thing. People are afraid of being whatever, or people fearing, wanting to die in power and all of that. The only lack of wisdom in all of that is the moment you die, you'll be buried. And you will all of a sudden be in the hands of other people. And whatever abusive treatment they want to mete out to you, it's possible. So I mean, a simple reflection every now and then about how the end would be should probably inspire some wisdom. Okay, if you want any respect, whatever, it's not something you can enforce by power when you're alive, but look at what can happen to you when you are powerless, when you become a piece of death, again, in the hands of whatever people. So it's regrettable for me for any head of state to want to perpetuate himself, by force, in power, whatever, because this force will leave you at a certain point. And then what?
I see. I mean, what should African leaders be doing about the situation in Togo? I mean, what would you say at this point to that situation?
So probably since Togo is not a unique instance, so what African leaders should be doing about this? If you want, then the question is what African leaders should be doing about leaders who perpetuate themselves in power, disregarding democratic dispensations and all. So it's a very broad question. It's not only the case of Togo. You probably go to Paul Biya, who, I don't know, probably far older than the Togolese gentleman, and still wants to run for office. You can go to Uganda. I think the attempt is recent, is still in the air. You can go to, if you want, whatever, depending on how you see Rwanda. So it's not an instance on the continent. If you want, it's a form of political culture that is also being developed. That has a possibility of tempting others to want to flout the democratic dispensation and all of that. Happily, some structures within our system try to help others. Okay, the other day I was talking with a highly placed member of our political system, who just visited Niger, I think. Okay, to help their own democratic transition. Okay, from whatever to another. So, in terms of what can be done, there are modest efforts. There was the effort in the case of Gambia, where even it was contemplated some kind of military intervention and force from here. I wish it didn't, happily it didn't come to that the guy himself, whatever. So a certain amount of, pressure, a certain amount of, political dialogue and all of that, what they call diplomatic solution, can sometimes be applied to, make all of this not happen. But, it just happened. I know, I was talking to guys from Senegal because of an event we organized, and some Senegalese, whatever thing came. And then I had met the former president, who incidentally now is living in Morocco. Okay, so this person I was talking to says, well, why is he not living in Senegal?
In Senegal.
Why has he left whatever type? And the moment they talk about that, then they suspect that he carried a large stash of money or whatever to enable him to whatever type. So this type often happens. So that's what I mean by, perpetuating yourself in power because you have power in your hand should make you think just about tomorrow when the power will not be in your hands anymore.
Right. I mean, and then there's also the issue of the democratic coups, as they are called. Burkina Faso, a case in point. Over the last few months, we've seen a lot of attention on that country because there are two sides of the divide. Those who think that Ibrahim Traore, the leader of the country right now, is doing great for his people, despite coming in through military rule. But we've seen, countries like the U.S. come strongly against that. We saw, General Langley's engagement with leaders in his country, where he thought that Traore wasn't doing great for his country. In fact, was perpetrating a lot of crimes against his own people. I mean, where do you stand on Traore's rule of Burkina Faso? What do you think?
I mean, so Langley, you mentioned, is American.
Yes.
So you could go straight away to U.S. and ask how many people are happy with Trump's regime. Just that there they have a dispensation which allows them a midterm election at which the people have a chance to express their approval or disapproval of whatever type of thing is happening. Unfortunately, we don't have that dispensation in Burkina Faso. If we did, then again would be people respecting the will of a people. In this case, the guy took power by a coup d'etat, and there's not been an election to kind of confirm him or whatever type of thing power. So it's popularly acclaimed, as it were. And the thing is, what force do you learn to popular acclamation? How much of it is motivated and all? Since I, sitting here, know that I don't call anything a popular revolution. There's no popular revolution. I mean, that just doesn't happen that all of a sudden, at a particular time, from whatever, people leave their homes and gather at a place. How does that happen? It's always organized, it's always motivated, and always inspired. So in that case, popular approval or popular acclamation, that may or whatever type of thing. But again, at a certain point, the tendency, so the call for respect of democracy and people's whatever type of thing, doesn't quite have an international police. And I'm not sure I agree with anybody constituting himself as an international police of democracy.
What does that mean?
What does that mean is you constitute as an international, so you want to go around and ensure that there's democracy everywhere. I'm not terribly old, but I'm old enough to have witnessed the first coup d'etat in Ghana. And the accusation was that Kwame Nkrumah was not democratic. And right after the coup, one of the things that was handled, later on we got to know where it all came from. I mean, right now, if you go to England, they've declassified a lot of material which will enable you to see everything that was done in Kwame Nkrumah's coup. Okay? So now declassified, we know whatever happened. The Ashanti Pioneer, which was publishing all of that with cartoons and all, we know where they all came from at this point in time. But so that was somebody who decided at one point that Ghana didn't have a democratic government and needed to be changed. Okay, so we had our first coup. And so now the thing about whatever type of appears also to be the same thing. Burkina Faso doesn't have a democratic. who determines what democratic governance is? Even the U.S. now, Trump, a few things are ruled by decrees. You know, he signs this and he shows it to the camera. They're not discussing Senate or whatever.
Or Congress.
Okay, and you say he has executive powers. To what extent does executive powers attenuate democratic discussion? And yet, it's the bastion of democracy in the world. So again, that's what I mean by, you know, we have an international body to do that job. That is the United Nations. If anybody would bypass the United Nations and consider themselves into their protege or their protector for some international, I find that suspect.
But what would be the difference between that international body and countries, I mean, richer countries like the U.S. going after Burkina Faso?
Why should you go after? Because it doesn't serve your interest. Is that it? What is the reason? What is the reason for going after, as you say, Burkina Faso? Give me the reason. Because it doesn't serve your interest? Why don't you talk about their interest? You do something, you mention U.S., so I'm talking about U.S.
Yes.
You do something that say America first. Why can somebody not say Burkina Faso first? And why do somebody saying Burkina Faso said offend you?
Well, I mean, because...
And then you say because they're not...
And they accuse the leader of human rights abuses. And so, I mean, they are going in there to save the people.
So you're interviewing me. You're talking about abuses. You know how many people still live on the streets in the U.S.?
A whole lot.
Okay, they are not abuses. You know how many people are put in prison? And what kind of category are put in prison? That's not abuses. So, I mean, we live in society, we try to make the society perfect. Okay, but it's also true that people come with positions which justify certain things as part of, you know, making society perfect. So we're on the path to perfection. And for me, what is necessary is the humility to accept that perfection is not yet on this earth, and we still pursue and go after it. The thing about the vouching or affirming that as, you know, this is the case, and so wanting to implement. So it creates a lot of problems. So, for example, with everything happening in Iran, they're talking about regime change. Who are you to change somebody's regime? You know, it's almost like saying that a certain category of people cannot decide what is good for them. That's what I made. That's why I made a point about who makes you an international or universal policeman of a whole lot of these things. Why can't we talk about a whole lot of things? So if you tell me about U.S., and of course I go to the U.S., I speak a lot also in the U.S. So I'm not against U.S. I did education there. I spent 4 years of my own preparation in the U.S. So I like the U.S., whatever. Okay, but when you present certain aspects of whatever type as a model, then it also, you know, we had Obama, we had Clinton, none of them talk about America first. It's not a talk now. And what does that generate? If you say this is number one and must be number one, who must accept to be number two? Would you accept to be number two? Or who would accept to be number three? It's an identification or a discourse that is in itself capable of generating a lot of tensions.
Your Grace, why do you think the world is in so much turmoil?
Probably because of just what you're saying. Because of just what you're saying, and some arrogating to themselves the power to do certain things. You know, I mean, it's just saying that this probably happened to be the case in the past. Here in Ghana, at one point, the discovery of gunpowder and dynamite gave people a chance to come to Ghana, build a castle, without us being able to challenge anything. That's not always going to be the case. But at one point, that was the case. Okay, times are changing. So probably the same forces and manifestations are there now, but they're not greeted with the peace that they greet all of these things in the past. And so we just need to recognize that things are changing, times are changing, and that this, you know, everybody is awakening. You know, if you're talking about European history, there's a time they call Renaissance. What does that mean? People are waking up at a certain point. It just means that we don't use the same expression elsewhere in the world, but there's this awakening always coming up and going on. People are becoming more and more conscious about, who they are, what they must do, and all of that, which just makes them ready to challenge anything that does not recognize this self-awakening, self-consciousness on their part. So what is it, or what can be done? The basic two attributes of every human person. Everybody is a personal being. That means everybody has a dignity that needs to be respected and promoted. Okay, and how do we promote it? In unison, coming together, whatever. Nobody considers another person policeman over your sense of development. That is the beginning of trouble. Okay, and so, and it's not that somebody can do it in freedom now, because we're not only personal beings, we're also relational beings. It means we accept to develop our being in relationship with others. Others within us in the same house, in the same country, and internationally.
But, but when it comes to that relationship with each other, particularly on the geopolitical level, Africa always seems to be at the disadvantage. Our voices are not heard enough. But when it comes to penalization and being handed the short end of the stick, it's always the African people. It's always the underdeveloped countries, which sometimes goes beyond Africa. But my focus is on the continent. Why, up until now, Africa is still treated the way it is treated? For instance, the U.S. just got up one day and decided, I'm going to put a ban on all 50-plus countries on the continent.
Okay, and so if
is that fair? It's not fair, is it?
But if so, in that case, as happened elsewhere, on this same in the sub-region, they also got up and said that the same reason, so the same stick hits also that side. So your citizens are also now welcome here. So some country do that. The only question you probably say is, what is the impact? Okay, the impact of this one and the impact of that one. All of that for me just goes in one direction. It is time we sit up and we develop our own selves. Okay, and that just probably may call for a whole lot of other things to change and all of that. So I was bishop in Cape Coast. One day I met a gentleman who told me that who told me that he was sitting in a plot of land, okay, in a part of Cape Coast which is called Notola industrial whatever type of thing, and a big chunk piece of land. So I said, so he was telling me that in the days of Kwame Nkrumah, when right after independence, a team was sent to Britain with schemes. This one was supposed to go into learning shipbuilding. This one into this one into that. What was their purpose? So to learn and to come and to begin some form of this industry out there. So this guy was telling me that, I used his language, and it was infantis or whatever. Okay, so when they finish whatever type of need, they allow themselves to be persuaded not to come back, but to stay on, crassy, whatever. So that program of whatever stalled. And you cannot say that this was a wrong thing, because Japan, Korea, they all learned. How did Japan could become big industrial, whatever? From copying a little bit. So what prevented them from whatever? But just that when they feel the sense of patriotism and national did not fuel them enough to make them overcome this hurdle. So that big project of Kwame Nkrumah, whatever, to start certain industries there, fizzled out.
Right.
So if you're telling me Africa is always on the short end, because we need to sit up.
We need to sit up.
We need to sit up and do whatever. Jokingly, I'm saying this not out of any malice, because I say this already to my Nigerian friends. Okay? I say Nigeria has not discovered its own destiny. A huge country with a huge domestic market, resources, brainy people, okay? I won't mention the names now, but I just met somebody in the service of a U.S., a governor, whatever type of thing. So if Nigeria wants to become a superpower like India, when India develops a motorcycle, it doesn't need to export a motorcycle to Ghana to have a market. It's got huge, how many people live in India? Millions. It's got a huge domestic market for every industrial product that it comes up with before it thinks about exporting. Nigeria, what you got? 200 million plus, huge domestic market needing to be exploited by your industrial research and industrial whatever.
Right.
Okay? So that you have the recipe, you have everything there for industrial growth and whatever.
You've been in the running to be Pope. And, it makes me so proud to talk about it all the time. But will there ever be a time where we have an African Pope?
Why not?
Because we haven't seen it. It's always you're this close, and then someone else pops up.
Look at it, though. Get it this way. I'm the first African Ghanaian Pope, Ghanaian Cardinal.
Cardinal.
Okay? And this was in 2003.
Right.
Why not before? So we kind of late, as it were, coming up into this race. And so that's why one cannot say it's too late. Okay? First, and there's some countries in Africa which is not even had its first cardinal. And so for me, it's not too late for anything like it's something that is beginning that we need to embrace and just what is important for us is to have credible figures that attract attention and that can be named or suggested for such position. That's what we need to do. But it's never too late.
And we look forward to that future.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
I pray for it every day.
Indeed. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Okay, thanks.
Well, we've been having a conversation with His Eminence Cardinal Turkson, and we'll bring you more of the conversation online. So if you missed this, watch it again on YouTube or on our social media handles. I'm Kemeni Amano, and this is Hot Issues. Bye-bye.